So there's some controversies.
There are, and I just wanted to touch on a couple. So, firstly, the boycotting. I didn't ask you if you're going to boycott the World Cup.
I'm not.
I think Alistair Campbell might be boycotting it.
Oh, well, I don't think anybody will miss him.
I think his version of boycotting was that he's not going to travel there and watch a game, which I think...
Well, I'm not going to travel there and watch a game either, to be fair.
Most of the world can't justify it because it's incredibly expensive, which we'll get onto. I've invited a few friends to watch the first game, and one of my friends texted me and said, "Oh, no, I'm boycotting this year." And I thought, what? And I think his reason was that FIFA are corrupt, but a lot of people will be boycotting or vocalising that they will be boycotting because of Donald Trump and because of Iran. I don't know. What's your view on boycotts just in general? Because...
I don't like them. I don't think they really do change anything. I think it's just a bit of a virtue signalling thing. I mean, there's still a view, I think, amongst a lot of liberals in the West that they brought down the South African apartheid regime by not buying oranges, when actually it was the working people and the ordinary people of South Africa who brought down that regime. Mm-hmm. So no, I'm not one for boycotting, really.
Okay. If you are boycotting the World Cup, of course, do let us know and tell us your reasons why, and see if perhaps you can convince us we're wrong. But then I wanted to get onto more just the some of the problems around we might call the accessibility of the World Cup.
Okay.
Because I'm a big believer that we should allow as many people to be able to access it and to watch a game as possible. And you'd think with a 48 team World Cup with far, far more games, you would be able to create a World Cup that was more inclusive, truly inclusive, and not just using that word in its sort of modern meaning. But the tickets are extortionate, as a lot of people have already talked about. Now, the group game tickets... I think the very cheapest that you could find is about $120, but mostly the group game tickets are between $400 and $600.
Oh, per person?
Yes, per person. And in Qatar, that was... this is sort of like the top standard price, I suppose, like so the very sort of standard, not, no fancy seats or anything. In Qatar, that was about $200, so it's a lot more than Qatar. And of course, Qatar was talked about as being quite an expensive World Cup to attend, particularly with flights and accommodation, of course. And then the final, that goes up to $6,000.
Oh,
it's really quite incredible. Now, interestingly, in the political lens, and obviously it's a political podcast, so we would see this side of it. There has been some pushback from FIFA towards America, towards the US, I guess it's the US footballing governing body that organises it, about ticket pricing. And even more interestingly, Zoran Mamdani has been really campaigning on this. And this is part of like what we can see maybe with the trend of the populist left. And it is popular to be campaigning and pushing back on some of these things. So he's one, I think this is him, pretty sure I saw that he had lobbied to have cheaper tickets, and they've agreed to release a certain number, I think maybe 1,000 tickets at $50, and that's for lower income people in New York to go and watch a game at the ones that are in, I was going to say in New York, technically in New Jersey, but the closest stadium to New York City.
And are the ticket prices as high in Mexico and Canada, or is it just America?
The US has the highest.
Right.
I'm not sure what the prices are in Mexico and Canada, but I know the US ones are extortionate. But the thing that I wanted to really draw people's attention to, though, is this sort of online argument about MetLife Stadium. So the MetLife Stadium is in New Jersey.
Okay.
But it's billed as being in New York. So you'll quite often see the venue for a game on the World Cup wall charts. It will say New York. So the final is in New York, and it's not. It's technically in New Jersey.
Which is just over the water, isn't it? It's just
over the water, but it's actually a long way.
Okay.
I was in New York last autumn, if you remember, and so I had a bit of a sort of it gives you an idea of the scale. I remember walking through Manhattan. I only walked. I walked from Brooklyn into Manhattan and then up to Central Park, and it took me about the whole day. It was remarkable how far it is.
Yeah.
I just don't think I've got an idea of the scale of the place. I wanted to show you a picture of MetLife Stadium, and compared, and I'll put this up on the video for those that are watching the podcast. This top image is MetLife Stadium in New Jersey, and the bottom one is Camp Nou in Barcelona. I lived very close to the stadium in Barcelona, and what you'll notice is the number of homes around the stadium
in Barcelona.
And how little parking there is compared to the MetLife Stadium.
MetLife Stadium being just surrounded by car parks.
Just surrounded by car parks, because some of the dialogue around this, particularly online, has been a case of the Europeans, let's say, getting upset with how far they would have to travel to one of these games. And Americans saying, well, of course the stadium can't be near the city because look how much space it takes up. And the Europeans pointing out that you wouldn't have to take up so much space if it was closer to the city because more people could walk and get public transport. And I think this is a really good example of a dividing line, not between the two sort of sides of politics, but between Americanisms and Europeanisms when it comes to the way we design our cities. And I actually think that there is a lot more that unites people, Europeans on the right and left, and I'm including us in this as Europeans, than and then a lot more that unites Americans on the right and left. And it's been really interesting seeing that. Americans pushing back both on both sides of the spectrum. The Europeans have been saying things like, we could walk there. Why don't we just walk to the stadium? And Americans saying, no, you cannot. You can't do it. And I saw a YouTube video of a guy that runs there. He says, right, I'm going to run to the stadium. I think it took him 3 hours to run there. So there is a train that goes from Penn Station in Manhattan. That train ticket, they've had to decrease the price off after there's been a bit of outrage about it. The ticket was $150 from Penn Station to the stadium, and they've had to slash the ticket price to $98.
And did you say that that's not what the ticket price was like 2 weeks ago?
No, the normal price is $12.90.
Oh.
So that would be an example of price gouging.
That is price gouging on a mega scale.
And interestingly, the public transport for the Qatar World Cup and for Russia in 2018 was free.
Yeah.
And when America put their bid in, and I'm saying America, I know some people have a problem with that, the USA, but it's shorthand for the USA. When they put the bid in as part of this joint bid, they pledged to have free public transport. And then in 2023, they reneged on that.
Same old Americans always cheating. That feels like a chant. We need to start off.
Our American listenership has just died today. So a few things have been shared online. This is a very online story. I know it's not good to be just chronically online, but I found this quite an interesting dialogue that's happening on the internet. Someone shared an image that I'll flash up for anybody watching of a sign on the exit of a hotel in I don't know where it is exactly. I think New Jersey somewhere. Saying hotel guests attending events at MetLife Stadium cannot walk to the stadium and cannot walk back to the hotel from the stadium. It is illegal and dangerous to walk on the roadways surrounding the stadium. Please make the proper transportation arrangements. Thank you.
So there's no pavement, sidewalk?
Exactly. And I've heard this anecdotally from friends that have visited family in America, and they've said to them, I'm just nipping out to the shop. And they say, well, what do you think you're doing? I say, can I walk? And they say, no, you cannot walk. And I had this experience. I went to see a college football game that was just an amazing experience. I loved it. LSU, which is Louisiana State University in Baton Rouge. And I was staying just over the river. And I looked up, I walked from the stadium. I was walking back into the town. And I went a couple of miles walking. And I thought, it's not far to go now. And it was a 6-minute drive on Google Maps.
Okay.
But walking wouldn't let you walk on Google Maps. So I'm thinking, this is a 6-minute drive, that's walkable. And I tried to get up onto the bridge and the police were there. And I said, can I not walk over the bridge? And they said, no. And they were shocked that I was asking them. You could tell they'd not been asked that before. It was like a sort of big motorway bridge.
Yeah.
And I thought, there's no footpath. And that's just that if a bridge had been built in Europe, there would be a footpath and there'd be a way of pedestrian access.
Yeah.
And so I had to order an Uber and it cost me $25 to get that 6-minute drive across the river. And yeah, it speaks, it really goes against my spirit, my instincts for how we should be living and how we should be allowing people to travel how they wish and make it easier for them.
Yes.
And, I think that is especially true for rail and for pedestrians and for cyclists, because so often those things can become infringed with a country that is very car dependent, like America is.
Yeah. I mean, in the UK, it's almost the opposite, isn't it? So in Trafford, we have this thing, I think it's called active cities, where they're trying to make you walk all the time. They want you to walk rather than use the car, but even rather than use public transport, they want people to walk places. And I mean, to some extent, I think exactly the same. It's none of their business. They should just give us the choices and then let us decide. But certainly banning walking feels like the wrong approach. The other thing on ticket prices was I saw an article that apparently they'd not sold a lot of tickets and they were now selling them through third-party discounting sites. Serves them right, I suppose, in some ways.
So I think this is something that, for me, when we talk about freedom within politics, we're often talking about, our civil liberties, our freedom of expression, our freedom of association. And I think the height of freedom is being able to leave your house and go where you want on foot, because it requires nothing. It's just as all of us are born, and when we're stopped from doing that, that feels like an infringement on my freedoms. And what's really interesting in America and seems counterintuitive is that for a country that is so obsessed with freedom in many ways, there are so many things which I think make you incredibly unfree.
Yes.
And the ability to cross a road without going across the traffic lights. I can believe that. And I was really aware of it. And it just feels so silly when you can just cross. There's no cars. You've got a space, but you're not allowed. And if a police officer sees you, they'll fine you for jaywalking. Yeah. And that's not over the whole country, but cities like New York. And I don't want to go down that route. And I know that culturally, if we're in Britain, we are poised kind of in between Europe and America. I know culturally, I will take Europe every single day of the week.
Definitely, yeah.
There was just one other thing was that this I found this TikTok. It's like Jeremy Clarkson on Top Gear, isn't it? It's like, I've been online this week and I found this. But I found this TikTok of a lady with quite a big following suggesting that it is Europeans thinking they can walk to MetLife Stadium is an example of white supremacy.
Oh, gosh. And
I would play it, but I think we'd lose a few brain cells. But the argument is that it shows their supremacist way of thinking, Europeans, that they think they can do things, and Americans are telling them no, they can't because you're not allowed. And I just think, well, watch us.
Yeah.